Landlords, do you understand the importance of conducting regular inspections at your properties? Here's our 7 top tips on how you can make sure you ace your property inspections every single time. So we've all heard the horror stories of tenants who leave rental properties, trash them, leaving the landlord up to the neck in bills and legal costs. Thankfully there's ways that we can avoid that, and one key strategy is by conducting regular property inspections. So quite often we find that landlords start off fairly diligent at the beginning of a tenancy, and inspections happen pretty regularly. As time goes by, these inspections become less and less, till eventually they fall off altogether and start to go by the wayside. This is a huge mistake. Inspections are absolutely critical. They give the landlord a perfect opportunity to check the property and check a multitude of things.
So conducting regular inspections are really important because it allows you to spot issues at the property such as mould, leaks, damp or blockages before they become major problems. It gives you the opportunity to guard against illegal activities and subletting within the property. It's an excellent opportunity for you to identify property damage, whether that's intentional, neglectful or accidental. And it also allows you as a landlord the opportunity to protect yourselves in the event of a dispute. Many insurers won't pay a claim if you can't prove that you've been diligent and vigilant throughout the tenancy. By conducting inspections regularly at the property, it also helps to avoid end of tenancy disputes, as many issues can be dealt with during the tenancy instead. It gives a fantastic opportunity for you to set the tone of the landlord-tenant relationship. If the tenants know that you're on the ball, they're more likely to treat your property with respect, knowing that they're not going to get away with things. And it also allows you to build trust. Tenants are always going to be grateful to you for sorting out minor issues without too much prompting or chasing to do so.
So one thing that I think we can all agree on is just how important inspections are for a landlord. But how can you make sure that you nail your inspections every time? Here's 7 top tips.
So the first tip we've got is to make sure that you make an appointment with the tenant. By law, as a landlord, you can't just turn up unannounced. Your tenant needs to be given at least 24 hours notice of any appointments. Make sure to be reasonable when arranging inspections with the tenant. At the end of the day, we want to work with them and not against them. There's legal procedures that you need to follow for booking an inspection, entering the property in an emergency, or if the tenant constantly avoids access for inspections. Secondly, it's really important to make sure that you have a systemised approach when tackling your property inspections. So make sure that you use a standard form for each inspection that you do and go from room to room in a systematic order, taking photos and notes. You can use the inventory report or the initial check-in report at this point. It's a really handy guide to remind you what the property was like at the time the tenant took possession. So when we're conducting our property inspections, it's important that we don't just look inside of the house. We need to make sure that we're checking all external areas as well. It's important to check to make sure the tenant's maintaining the garden in accordance with the rules set out in the tenancy agreement. It also gives you your opportunity to make sure you've checked all pipework both inside and outside the property, the opportunity to make sure you've checked any drains, electrical sockets and so forth. Our fourth tip to making sure that you absolutely ace your property inspections is to make sure that we test everything. So make sure we test alarms and extraction fans to ensure that they're working exactly as they should. And remember, it's a legal requirement for a working smoke detector to be on each floor of the property and for a carbon monoxide detector wherever there's a solid fuel burning appliance in place. Whilst it's important for us to physically check, inspect and test everything ourselves, it's sometimes just as important to make sure that we ask our tenant if there's any issues. The tenant lives in the property on a day-to-day basis, so if something's not working as it should be or there's a problem with something, then they're certain to know. Communicate with the tenant, ask if there's any issues, anything that they want to discuss. Now we've completed our inspection, it's important to make sure that we're creating records that this happened as well. And not only doing that, but making sure that we share it with our tenant and sign it to prove exactly when that was done. This creates really clear evidence the inspection's happened should you ever need to rely on it further down the line. So finally, now that we've got our completed inspection report, we've signed it, we've shared a copy of our tenant, we need to make sure that we're filing that away and storing it. This is really important to make sure you've got a paper trail and accurate records. Remember, it's a requirement under the HHRS and the Fitness for Human Habitation Act to keep accurate records of maintenance and inspections on your properties.
So if you're struggling for time or don't have the expertise to conduct regular inspections at your property, and you'd like to have a chat about how our tried and tested inspection processes can help you, feel free to get in touch, drop us a comment below, drop us a message on the page, we'll be more than happy to help.